22-year-old Laken Riley will be laid to rest today. The Georgia nursing student who was brutally murdered during her morning run, her alleged killer, an illegal immigrant from Venezuela. And while former President Trump remembered Laken Riley during his border visit yesterday, President Biden, he decided to call names and talk about climate change.
The idea there's no such thing as climate change, I love that, man. I love some of my Neanderthal friends who still think there's no climate change.
Mr. President, do you bear any responsibility for Laken Riley's death?
I spoke to her parents yesterday. They're incredible people. They're devastated beyond belief. But she was beautiful, just so beautiful in so many ways, and brutally assaulted, horrifically beaten, kidnapped, and savagely murdered. The monster that charged in the death is an illegal alien migrant who was led into our country and released into our communities by crooked Joe Biden.
So you choose to go to the border, Harris, where there's chaos and a crisis, and a young woman, 22 years old, laid to rest today who lost her life. You don't answer a question about her. Instead, you begin your remarks, as Biden did, talking about climate change. And instead of saying the name of a 22-year-old, he decided to calling Republicans Neanderthals.
Well, you know, I had some further thoughts about why he might have not said her name, because KJP, the press secretary, actually did say Laken Riley's name. And I wondered, because he has had some gaffes. Was that specifically done that way so that he wouldn't make a mistake? And I think that's a fair question, and I like to be able to give people the benefit of the doubt, although that's one that if you were going to put it on a note card, phonetically, you might have done that because it was worth taking the chance that you might get it wrong, and maybe just not get it wrong. It's important to say her name. It's important that we understand the journey that we're all on as a nation together. And to have a president who it was either decided for him that he wouldn't go for her name, or he honestly just thought that it was more important to call names of Republicans and to go after them, is someone who's really missing the mark. And it's been 3+ years of him missing the mark, and it's killing us. So that name is synonymous with the responsibility that, again, he has the mantle to fix. And it's also a reminder of who we want to be as Americans. Do we want to have a soul? Do we want to have that? Do we need a commander-in-chief to prove to the world that we do? And the answer to that is yes, we need that. So I don't like the fact that he didn't go for it and say her name. I'm hoping that that was the case. But if he deliberately did it, that's a bigger problem, too.
That's a big problem. And look, former President Trump took people by surprise and saying, I've spoken with Laken Riley's family. That's something presidents do, is reach out to people incurring tragedy, especially national tragedy. But President Joe Biden, KJP was asked, have you called Laken Riley? Here's what she had to say.
Karine, has the president spoken to the family of Laken Hope Riley, the young Georgia student who was murdered allegedly at the hands of an undocumented immigrant?
So first of all, I do want to extend our deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of Laken Hope Riley. Given this is an active case, I'm going to be really careful about speaking to that case more specifically. Would have to refer anything specific to that case to law enforcement and obviously ICE. And the president, I don't have anything regarding to the president speaking to the family, but it is heartbreaking. I can't even imagine what the family's going through.
So she didn't have anything, but he should call the Riley family today.
Of course. He also has loads of time because we know per his public schedules that he and the vice president have barely anything on their schedules all the time. That's partly of what feeds into the questions that Americans have, which is what are you doing with your time? I'll have to point out as well, you know, just look at how the difference in approaches, the difference in perspectives and paradigms that the Trump and people with common sense have versus the Biden administration about illegal immigrants, about these horrific crimes, about this entire narrative. You know, they see Laken Hope Riley as potentially an inconvenience against their narrative where illegal immigrants are newcomers, right? They see this entire thing as, no, we love this, this enriches us. They see our messaging of a lack of resources and a plea for help to be racist. There is such a different lens that they are viewing what is a reality for Americans in all 50 border states as they have become, which is that for us, it's a travesty. He said it's killing us. It is literally killing so many people. Laken Hope Riley is just one of them. And Peter Alexander mentioning the undocumented part, you know, the suspect in question wrote an NGO in the form. That's a whole other story, but Paul Morrow has dug into it, which is that there's a phenomenon where illegal immigrants will just write they'll get a name of an NGO, they write it in, so then in processing, okay, great, perfect. They call the NGO, as Paul Morrow did, they'd never heard of that person. So there's an entire element of fraud that then calls into question not only that illegal or legal status, but also feeds right into the Biden administration's hands of, oh, we're doing everything possible, the policies are working. No, they're not, you're being gamed.
Yeah, Charles, you know, it was such a peculiar choice to put Biden versus Trump yesterday because the campaign has openly communicated that they might not participate in debates.
Right.
You can surmise from that.
Right.
They realize the optics will be challenging for Biden, but here were the optics yesterday, and let me know if you see a difference.
Anyway, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you, HSI. Thank you, ERO. Sir, it's time for remarks, and our briefers, I invite you to our seats, and then we'll escort you this way.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Chief.
We'll now come over here with our friends from ICE, HSI, and ICRO.
Good to see you, man. Thank you. Gotta stand on my mark. My mark's back here. I'm told where I stand, little X's. I gotta be careful what I do here.
So he has to stand on his mark as you watch Trump take the lead and shake hands with Border Patrol.
In many ways, I mean, if you had a next door neighbor whose family treated the grandfather this way, you would say, golly, what are they doing? Like, I mean, honestly, the Democratic Party's got to figure this out. Maybe President Biden is just, you know, his will to stand there, or you know, maybe he and his wife want to, you know, because power is so, it corrupts absolutely. No matter what, it's such a magnet, you can't give it up. And so even with a diminished state that he's obviously in, that part of him still controls everything. He won't give up that seat, but that was scary what we just saw. And then the whole thing with the Neanderthal thing and the climate change thing, you know, it reminds me of the beginning of the pandemic, oh, these people don't believe in science. When the fact of the matter is the curious mind understands that science is never settled, right? It's only people who have settled for your game that really, you know, I wouldn't call anyone a Neanderthal, but they're the ones who need to probably, by the way, Apple yesterday gave up on their EV cars. Like, the whole climate thing is falling apart. And so, but it was just, it was shameful, but that was a concerning moment.
Yeah.
That was a concerning moment for an elderly American, and the people closest to him should be ashamed.
Yeah, it's all tone deaf, and the White House now calling illegal immigrants newcomers. That's the new word.
Well, and this is words matter, and this is straight out of the 1984 commie playbook, right? That you're not supposed to believe in the evidence of your eyes and your ears. You're supposed to just, you know, follow whatever they tell you is right. You look at, you know, scholars like Victor Davis Hanson, who said the first act of these people is to break the law. So instead of calling them newcomers, just seeking asylum, no, we should call them lawbreakers. That's what we should call them, because words matter. The left knows this. They know this so well, and they use it to manipulate us. But we have to see, no, this is the truth. We have to stand for the truth. We have to understand what's happening to America. We have to understand those are two competing visions. Trump shaking hands with families. That's why service members loved him. And Joe Biden, he wants to rule by the administrative state, as you said. But Trump's got dust on his boots. He's down there on the ground with the people. That's all you got to see.
Yep, well, we will see what happens. He needs to personalize this issue. I would advise President Biden at your State of the Union, bring an angel mom, bring an angel family member, call for the nation to fix the problem, and then take action.